Hello everybody, welcome to this playthrough for Rookie Division for the 3rd anniversary tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also visit golfclashtommy.com for more Golf Clash related content. You can get the text guides by subscribing to patreon.com/golfclashtommy or to become a member here on YouTube. Then you get those guides before everyone else. If you do want to get the ultimate tournament text guide, those can only be found on Patreon, so therefore subscribe, check out Patreon, then you can get both in one package. You can see on the right hand side of the game screen an info box that is pretty common nowadays for the videos here on the channel. There I list the elevation adjustment for the drive, for the second shot, and then what type of ball I would say would be the best one to use. Doesn't need to be the one to use, but the best one to use. And also the club, same thing there. It doesn't have to be the one that you use, but I do have a plan with these things that I suggest there to the right. In the end, you will see my shots and some of my opponent's shots as well. I'm going to do my best to explain to you my thought process and how to crush this tournament. In the end, you will see a new playthrough when the tournament starts with the tournament wins. This win here that is applied in on these videos is not the win that we're going to have in the tournament, so have that in mind. Comment if you do have any questions. I will be there to help you out. And in the end, before we go to hole number 1, I want to wish you the best of luck. Number 1. So, we have been playing this hole several times in a tournament before, so now it's just to fine tune. The thing that we're looking for is to bounce on the fairway, getting it up on the green to fall down towards the pin, using max side spin to the right. And you also notice that I'm using a quasar. A quasar gives me side spin too, and in my opinion that's going to be the minimum side spin you want to have on your ball. If you want to make the shot even easier for you, you're going to play with a side spin 3 ball like the Katana to give yourself more side spin to the right, so you do not have to go with that much curl. I'm using half a ball of curl, which is going to in the end be a little bit too little. I would say if you're playing with a side spin 3 ball like the Katana, half a ball of curl would be perfect. If you play with a side spin 2 ball like here, you're going to play with a little bit more curl, like 3/4 of a ball outside the adjustment ring to the right. Elevation is going to be 10%, and if you do struggle adjusting for elevation, please look up the elevation guide that I do have here on YouTube channel, and 10% is needed to adjust for, so we're hitting the target that we're aiming for. And then in the end, we're going to play with max distance number. So max distance with a 10% over adjustment, side spin 2 or side spin 3 ball. And then in the end, we're playing with a club like the Sniper or the Viper for a better accuracy and a better ball guideline. Number 2, so let's go. Yes, hole number 2, and here you see that I play with a quarterback level 7 and a Titan ball. This is because I'm going to try in all cases that I can to get over on the right hand side. And with a wind coming right to left, we need curl. But with a lower level extra mile or with a lower level Thor's hammer, we do not have that curl in our bag. So therefore we need to try to rely on the quarterback. And for me, in the end, to try to not have to overpower my shot, I'm using a Titan to compensate for that. You can, easily play with a different ball. That's why I'm adding the Katana there as well. You can play with a Quasar as well. You don't have to play with a Titan, but if you can, it's easier as you don't have to overpower. And once getting over the rough and going past the bunkers there, you have a very nice and an open shot towards the pin, which in my opinion, from front tee, playing in Rookie Division is going to be the best way to trying to get this eagle from distance. The thing we have to think about though, if we do not have the possibility to play with a Titan ball or any special ball whatsoever, we play on the left hand side like our opponent. We just shoot it straight down the center, with the knowledge of knowing that the second shot will not be easy. 10% over adjustment, so we need to add 10% if when we're playing the drive, and that's the same playing the second shot. We need to add 10% as well, and here for the second shot, it is very valuable to play with side spin to the left, as the fairway slopes left to right, so to compensate for the first push that you're going to get by the bounce, you want the side spin to kind of correct that by using the left side spin. And here, you know, this is a very good opportunity, and I do choose to play on the right hand side if I can, but once again, it is not the only way. You can play left, and if you play left as our opponent is doing, I would suggest you to try to go for a rough bump, even though that is very risky, but otherwise you're going to have a very difficult time to land that one on green and take yourself a birdie. You will see people messing up on this hole because it is a tough par 4. So, let's go with hole 3. Yes, and here we're going to play Titan ball. There is no really excuses here to go with a different ball, because here we do need distance, and I'm going to get into that just in a bit. Big topper, absolutely key club. Using a big topper here, even though it just is in level 1, is a major advantage over your opponents, because we do want, or let's say like this, if we are going to reach for the green in 2 to get the eagle, we do need to get as much distance as possible when bouncing over this bunker. And that we can only do if we get to play with a big topper and its topspin. Playing with a different club, especially with lower level clubs that is usually in rookie, you're going to have a major problem, because you won't get enough distance, and then the trees, as you can see there on the top right of the game screen, you will not be able to go through them. You need to go around them, and then obviously the shot is going to be much more difficult. But if you do not have a big topper, use the other driver that gives you the most distance and topspin together. Let's say we would be having a straight headwind and we might play with lower level clubs. Then we have to lay up. We cannot reach over the bunker in the sand, because, you know, then we might not even reach the green in 3. So then we just lay up on the left hand side, play fairway, fairway, green, and just take the birdie for what it is. But to be able to get the eagle, we need to reach over the rough and the sand, and just because we do that doesn't mean that the second shot is going to be easy. We're going to play with a 10% over adjustment here as the drive, so 10% for the drive, 10% extra for the second shot. And the thing that I'm looking for now is to get the ball to bounce on the fairway, bounce in the rough, and roll out to be somewhere around the fringe, like fairway very close to fringe, or on green for an eagle. I'm not looking for the albatross, because the albatross is too difficult and you need to be extremely lucky if you're going to get that one. Now we do need to use overpower, and using overpower is always going to be risky, it's going to be tricky, so make sure that you focus and get your shot away. We bounce on the fairway into the rough to roll out, and I will take this shot all day and every day, because if you get an eagle here, I can assure you that most of your opponents will not, because even though we reach over and get ourselves an opportunity, it's 2 very tough shots that you need to make perfectly to get the eagle. So be satisfied with that and go through to the next hole without being disappointed for an eagle on a par 5, because that is almost a drop according to me. So let's go with hole number 4. We are going to play this par 3 with a 15% over adjustment. And we're going to use somewhere between 2 to 4 bars of backspin, depending on what type of wind angle we are going to have. Max side spin to the right, and we're going to try to play this shot on the fairway like displayed here on the screen. The hard part with this par 3 though is that it's extremely inconsistent with its bounce. Sure, there is a rough bump, but it's a very tiny rough bump, and it's very hard with low level accuracy clubs to actually provide that as an alternative. I do think that's going to make us miss more than it's going to make us hit it. Now in the end we go way left here, but in the end it's going to be a safe birdie. Make sure that you use approximately half a ball of curl to the right to get to your aiming point. Very tough par 3 from front tee due to our clubs and due to it being very inconsistent with its bounce. So let's go hole number 5. We're going to start with the drive, and now we're going to play this one over the water, rough and sand. And the plan here is to just land it on the other side. You could see that fairway area that I did zoomed in there real quick, and that area is absolutely the ultimate position for us to find. But the problem is that you do need a lot of topspin to get there. I'm not even entirely sure that the big topper will help, as it will most likely make us get stuck in the rough. So the thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to just play for bouncing on the fairway over to the other fairway, finding myself in a difficult spot, getting a good shot for the eagle. One thing that I would like you to have a think about is like what type of ball you're going to play with. You don't have to play with a navigator ball. You can play with Quasar, Katana, you can play with Marlin basic ball, but you can also play with more power ball if you want to. In the end, the rest of is still going to be the same. We bounce over, and then we're going to have to go for, in this case, a rough bump as we're doing now. No elevation for the second shot, but please have in mind, once we're having wind like this, with a tailwind, which is going to make us have to adjust from a higher point to a lower point pretty drastically, that would mean that this ball is going to travel less distance. Now, in the end, we are not adjusting much, but have in mind, if you do have a pretty decent wind and you notice that you do have to adjust to a much lower point, make sure that you push up your target, or like push up your aiming point a little bit in the end, otherwise you will fall short and get stuck into the bunker. Elevation adjustment is going to be 10% over adjustment for the drive, nothing for the second shot. And I do want to give you one final tip here. Pack the machete as a rough iron, because if you go too far with your drive into the rough, the green is very thin, so we do want the backspin. So therefore pack the machete as a rough iron, just only for this course. Side in this scenario, and you need to play with a Titan ball. You need a power 3 ball. Very super duper important. The thing though is that I do feel that playing on the left hand side will obviously in many of the cases get you an eagle, but it's going to be a very tough route to take. I would say that there is a different route to take as well, but it requires a drive that is going to be consistently into a great distance. And so left side is a good way to play, but depending on what type of player you are, you might have like spot on drives. Then you should be instead trying to lay up as close to the rough on the right hand as possible, and then to try to go directly over the rough and the water for your second shot. But in the end, we are choosing the left side here, and we play as much topspin as possible with as much side spin to the right possible. Make sure that you do not roll into the rough, into the sand though, because that's then you cannot reach for the green in 2. Power 3 ball is a must no matter what type of way you're going to play, and you are in this case going to need it for the second shot. 10% over adjustment for the drive, and that's going to leave us up having a wood club towards the pin. The wood club here, it has to be the big dog. It just has to. You cannot play with a wood club that gives you less distance, because then I can assure you, you cannot reach to the green area in any form. So now you're gonna see how far we're going to be from the green here, and this is a very important lesson to have. That okay, even though we are so far away, we can use the curl on our big dog, we can use the top spin and also the side spin, so we should be managing to get this ball fairly close to the green. But we're only playing the shot here to get the eagle. I'm not playing this shot here to try to get an albatross, because now we are so far away because we didn't make the drive properly. So now we are just going into save mode. And the thing is though, we are very lucky to roll out from the rough there, but needed a little bit more of aiming to the right hand side of the fairway there. But that also speaks towards, look at the right side of the game screen here. That's the spot I would like you to lay up on if you feel comfortable getting enough distance with your drive. Problem with that type of route though is that if you do not get the distance enough, you will not be able to reach over the rough sand and water, and then you're going to be dead when it comes to reaching for the green in two. At least from the left hand side, we're giving us a fighting chance, even if we make a bad drive, to be able to reach to the area there up front. Our opponent playing with the horizon, and that's good actually for the topspin, but in the end, you need to push the second shot harder to get to the green. Now, last but not least, we're going to have a wedge for the pin, and this wedge is not going to be easy, even though we do have a firefly to help us with the ball guideline. It's definitely not going to be easy. So make sure that you put yourself with the route of playing that you feel the most comfortable with, and I'm obviously going to look into this course a lot when it comes to when the tournament starts. Seven. We're going to play with a long iron, and the long iron we're going to play with is either going to be the backbone or it's going to be the Goliath. And we're going to bounce on the fairway over the rough and the sand using 2.5 bar side spin to the left. You can use side spin to the right as well, but I would suggest though to use left spin here as a first suggestion. We do want to use approximately half a bar of topspin to 1.5 bar topspin, depending on what type of wind we're going to have. If we do have, like now, have a little tailwind, I would go with only half a bar of topspin. If we would be having a headwind, I would go up and play with 1.5. And now we're going to try to align the ball guideline with the pin. And then we take our shot, and it's going to bounce over and it's going to roll very nicely towards the pin. Do not forget to over adjust 20%, and if you do have a struggle with adjusting for elevation, make sure you watch the guide for elevation here on the channel. And ball wise, Quasar, Marlin, Navigator, you can play with basically whatever type of ball you might want to. So this was hole number 7, par 3 of the Drumore Links in the 3rd anniversary tournament. Number 8. Here we're going to start by playing with a quarterback. The beauty part here, playing from front tee, is that we can play with the quarterback in actually just medium distance of our club. I'm going to use max side spin here with, in this case, a Marlin ball. In the end, if you do want to play it more aggressively, you can do so by playing with a Quasar ball, you can play with a Titan ball, you can play with basically whatever type of ball you might want. But the thing that I would like you to have if you play aggressively is to have at least side spin too. Because the further up to the right we're getting with our drive, the easier the rough bump is going to be, because I personally value a rough bump with the short iron over a long iron. But also in this case we're getting to the fairway using a 10% over adjustment, and that's going to leave us to either a rough bump with a long iron or that we're going to bounce over the rough with a short iron. I would say personally that a rough bump long iron will in the end be more consistent for you to get it close, as then we do not really have to compensate for the secondary bounce wind effect, and then we can only compensate for where we do want the ball to first bounce. In the end, no elevation for the second shot, and this is a good opportunity no matter what way you're choosing. So you choose the way that you feel comfortable with, and then you play with the Thorn or the Hornet as a rough bump, or just to bounce over if you want to, or you play with a long iron with a rough bump. In the end, it's down to what you feel the most comfortable with. Let's go to hole number 9. We're going to start with playing with a quarterback and a Titan. It kind of kind of maybe speaks against each other, playing with a driver with less distance but with a ball with more distance. But I'm gonna get to why in just a little bit. First, we're going to use 3.5 bar backspin and as much side spin to the right possible. In the end, I changed to 4 bars backspin because it's better to have more backspin and then have more control. Because the plan here now is to get this ball to be as close to the rough line possible on top there. Half a ball of curl outside the adjustment ring to the right to just kick our ball as far into the right possible. 10% over adjustment for the drive is what we do want to play. Second shot, now we do need distance. If I would be having a tailwind here, I would be able to carry over the rough and the sand to bounce on the fairway and then roll towards the pin. But in this case, we do have a crosswind and tailwind, which means that I will not be able to reach, then topspin is super valuable. Even that together with distance. So therefore the Titan ball very, very important. But also we use the Horizon, which is a club that we very rarely use. But even with a Horizon level 1, you have an enormous topspin, which is going to help you big time here. Because you do want to get as close to the green as possible. You will not be able to reach the green, have that in mind. But at least reaching as close as possible for very, not simple wedge, but at least a more simplified wedge than you would otherwise have. If you don't have the Horizon, play with the big dog, as works as a backup there with its distance and also its topspin. No elevation for the second shot. So, thank you so much for watching this playthrough for all the holes in the 3rd anniversary tournament. Make sure that you comment in the comment section below if you do have any questions, and also hit the thumbs up. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and subscribe to Patreon to get the ultimate tournament text guide so you can, together with us, crush tournaments. Good luck.